Well, who would have thought I would be approaching this topic again? Doctor Who was a show that hugely influenced me growing up, and it could be argued that it had an impact on my eventual interest and proclivity for filmmaking and editing. 5.5 years ago, I made a video criticising the marketing around Jodie Whittaker's first series. As has been well documented now by much more successful channels than mine, Chris Chibnall's reign as showrunner of the 6-decade-old TV series was incredibly divisive, with the pinnacle of this being the complete retcon of the Doctor's origin. In a desperate attempt to win back fans, Whittaker's Doctor regenerated back to David Tennant, along with the return of Russell T Davies as showrunner, culminating in the 3 60th anniversary specials, which ranged from mediocre to god-awful in my opinion. David Tennant's 14th Doctor then bi-generated into Ncuti Gatwa, the first queer black Doctor. Personally, I don't focus on people's immutable characteristics, but the mainstream media seems stalwart in hammering it in. Gatwa's new companion, Ruby, played by Millie Gibson, came onto the scene in the last Christmas special, with some manufactured mystery attached to her, which will no doubt be revealed in the series finale. If the previous 3 anniversary specials weren't enough of a warning sign of what to expect in the forthcoming series, then the Christmas special definitely lowered the bar tenfold. Fast forward to the present day, where the first 2 episodes of the newest season have released, Space Babies and The Devil's Cord. The entire premise of Space Babies is just nonsensical. Even before we reach the main setting, a throwaway gag referencing the butterfly effect displays a complete incompetence in the understanding of the nature of causality. Great start. Also, rather than letting things be revealed naturally over time, Gatwa's Doctor does a complete lore dump on Ruby, explaining he was raised on Gallifrey and is the last of the Time Lords. Despite the fact he split off from Tennant's Doctor, who is currently squatting in the noble household, so already that is categorically false. Oh well, I guess Russell T Davies just wanted to use the moniker Last of the Time Lords again. God bless Chibnall's catastrophic writing for making the status relevant again. At least in previous seasons, there was a build-up to the Doctor opening up about his past. This is Ruby's first trip in the TARDIS, and all of a sudden the Doctor is telling her everything. Russell recycles even more from his previous era by salvaging the universal roaming phone hack, and it's really just a case of going through the motions compared to the scene in The End of the World in 2005, where the emotional weight was a lot more tangible. Doctor Who's latest enemy, Russell T Davies' ego. Putting that aside, the Doctor and Ruby arrive on a human colony ship that is growing babies. If that wasn't unsettling enough, the crew of the ship are all infants, chronologically 6 years old, and are able to speak. This only served to give me Vietnam flashbacks to the film Look Who's Talking. You'd think after 30 years the lip movement effects for babies would look more seamless. I guess not. The babies are being supervised by an AI nanny, literally called Nan-E.
Nani? Good afternoon, children, and welcome to our new visitors.
Responsible for changing nappies and blowing their noses. This will become relevant later. It transpires that a monstrous creature lurks in the underbelly of this ship called the Bogeyman. Naturally, the children are terrified by the monster and the Doctor consoles them. The captain of the ship asks the profound question if she was born wrong. Dr. Gatwa reassures her by saying that he's the only one of him. Not true, the 14th Doctor is still on Earth. In any case, the AI nanny turns out to be a human being speaking through a filtered speaker. The corporation in charge of the baby farms underwent a recession, and the workforce left in protest, abandoning the babies as it was illegal to kill them. What are you trying to say here, Russell? In any case, the human nanny, the paragon of virtue, stayed behind to look after the babies and is hell-bent on trying to get rid of the bogeyman. It's also revealed that the bogeyman is just that, a living organism made out of bogies. The ship's AI generated the bogeyman out of the innate fears of the children, using their snot from blowing their noses to create the monster. Russell, what happened? The nanny is about to jettison the bogeyman through the ship's airlock when the Doctor suddenly has an epiphany about being the last of his kind. Not true. He empathises with the bogeyman and saves it from being ejected. Great! Now you have a massacre of infants on your hands. After the climactic moment, when it is established that the ship has no fuel to reach the colony planet, the Doctor decides to use the biomass of the baby's dirty nappies to fart their way to sanctuary. No, I am not making that up. After that successful adventure and the rushed gifting of a TARDIS key, Ruby speaks to the Doctor about the limitations of where they can travel to, where the Doctor forbids her to go back to the events of her birth. Ooh, season arc. Well, with that shite out of the way, no pun intended, let's tackle the Devil's Chord. We open in 1925, where a pianist is teaching the piano to a young boy. The boy is dissatisfied by the lesson, so the teacher tells him about the Devil's Chord, banned in medieval times to avoid summoning Satan. The chord, in turn, summons this person. After correcting the ignorant teacher of this person's correct pronouns...
Henry, get away from him.
Them.
What?
Me.
What?
I'm them.
You're who?
priorities...
Fucking pronouns!
This character is revealed as Maestro, a celestial being who feeds off Aeolian tones, that being the sounds made outside of human action, or unsung songs. The young boy is revealed to be a harbinger of Maestro, cleverly named Henry Arbinger. Well done, Russell. And Maestro feeds off the unsung songs of the teacher. Meanwhile, in the TARDIS, the Doctor and Ruby decide to visit 1963 and watch the Beatles record an album in Abbey Road Studios. Upon watching the Beatles and Cilla Black behind the window of a recording booth, they realise that something is amiss. After speaking to Paul McCartney and John Lennon respectively, they learn that the Beatles have lost their passion for music and that this is the symptom of a larger issue, as history is now being rewritten. After having a piano hoisted up to the rooftop, the Doctor and Ruby try to see if music still resonates with the average person by having Ruby play a song she had written for her female friend after breaking up with her girlfriend. Heterosexuality is like a needle in a haystack in this universe, I swear to God. This references Ruby being the keyboardist in her band in the Christmas special, which makes me wonder if they will selectively remember this trait in the same vein as Ryan's dyspraxia from the Whittaker era. In any case, we see the local residents becoming moved by Ruby's music, until Maestro is summoned again. Their arpeggiated laugh strikes a chord with the Doctor, again, no pun intended. As he realises Maestro is the child of the toy maker whom he faced after bi-generating. Maestro emerges from the piano and hunts after the Doctor and Ruby. They manage to hide from Maestro as they capture another victim, and the Doctor confesses he has no solution to defeating them. Ruby tries to reassure the Doctor that music will always exist and the world didn't end in 1963. The Doctor flies the two of them back to present day to show Ruby the impact of Maestro. London has been completely obliterated, with the logic being that without music or creativity, the human race waged war on itself. I would rebuke this by saying that humans needed creativity to gain the upper hand in warfare, but who am I to question the unparalleled wisdom of Russell T Davies in current day? Ruby is naturally devastated, and Maestro suddenly appears and goes full exposition mode, outlining the master plan of consuming all music, at the cost of wiping out civilization. I mean, Maestro was already enough of a cartoon villain, but this just cinches it. The thought occurs that if the Devil's Chord released Maestro into the universe, there must be a counter chord that would banish them again. The Doctor and Ruby narrowly escape after Maestro tries sabotaging the TARDIS and return to 1963. The Doctor and Maestro engage in a music off, which gave me Vietnam flashbacks once again of another horrible film, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. The Doctor begins to figure out the counter chord to banish Maestro with comical quaver notes signifying his progress, as if people hadn't already realised what he's trying to do, but hits a bum note, allowing Maestro to regain power. The piano is conveniently cast out of the room and reaches John and Paul. No love for George and Ringo, eh? Maestro traps the Doctor and Ruby in a timpani drum and a cello, respectively. But then, all of a sudden, John and Paul figure out the missing notes of the counter chord. Thank God they had those helpful quaver notes hovering above. This banishes Maestro once and for all. Good riddance. Relishing in their victory, the Doctor and Ruby return to the rooftop where they hear music being played everywhere. The Doctor warns Ruby that throughout his adventures in time and space, there's always a twist at the end. Now, you would think that this would be a haunting word of caution. But no, he winks at the camera and the next scene is an over-the-top musical number with the chorus, "There's always a twist at the end."
There's always a twist, there's always a twist, there's always a twist at the end.
I'm taking liberties here because the BBC are draconian when it comes to copyright. This is fair use, this is fair use, this is fair use, BBC. The Doctor and Ruby cap out their adventure walking across the Abbey Road zebra crossing, which are now piano keys because why not? And there we go, Space Babies and the Devil's Chord.
What the hell was that?
I had held out hope after hearing Russell T Davies was returning as showrunner, and I was willing to give the new time-travelling duo a fair shake, but this was awful. I'm not going to deny Ncuti Gatwa's acting ability, but his range as the Doctor from these first 2 episodes alone goes from overly flamboyant to sombre, and that's it. Millie Gibson similarly is surprisingly one note. The universal roaming rehash, as I referenced towards the start of this video, compare Gibson's performance to that of Billie Piper, and the difference is uncanny. The writing is nonsensical. And before I hear the Patrick Willems Star Wars argument of this is a film about space wizards intended for children, how little do we respect children that this is the content we provide for them? Jinx Monsoon as Maestro was downright insufferable. I don't think there was enough scenery left to chew after they finished filming. Also, I don't know why they decided to encounter and defeat a celestial villain in episode 2 of the series. Unless Maestro finds a way to return through convoluted writing, this was a complete waste. Also, you have the Beatles as characters in your show, arguably some of the most iconic and influential musicians in the last century, and they're just relegated to being glorified window dressing in the overall story. Here's me thinking that they would have more of an impact on the narrative like in Russell's original run. Shakespeare, Dickens, Agatha Christie, all of these figures had much more impact on the episode's events, but I suppose the argument could be made that Russell didn't write any of those episodes, and it shows. General audiences didn't take too well to these episodes, naturally, but fear not, the mainstream media defence force along with cast and crew are here right on cue to villainise any critics. This tactic is so tired at this point that I'm genuinely baffled at how they don't realise they're just dividing the fan base even more. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the matter. I probably won't continue with this series as it's like flogging a dead horse, but regardless, this is Gallifreyan Avenger signing off. Take care.